Guys, it's Sarah, and today we are going to talk about all the books I read in the month of February. February is interesting. I read five. So not as much as I initially wanted to. However, I'm in my Stray Kids era, and that was a lot of my time. Was listening to Stray Kids. Like, I just wanted their music on constantly and watching videos, and so I spent a lot of time doing that, and I'm not mad about it. So that meant 5 books, but let me tell you, 3 of them were 5 stars. So definitely not mad about that. Okay, the first book that I read is The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. This one checks so many boxes for me. This was the group read for our BookTube Besties reading retreat that we did in February, which was fantastic. But this was the group read for that. So there's 1 box. This was a book that was sent to me from Amanda for our last Christmas book exchange. So that's 2. This was also on my winter TBR because it has a medal in the title, and that is the prompt that I picked for my winter TBR. So that's 3. So we're picking all sorts of stuff here for this one. Hit a lot of boxes for me. Now, this is a mystery, and it is set on a baking reality show. Think the Great British Bake Off, but it's set in America, in Vermont. So different bakers come around and they stay at this big manor, and they have, they cook in a tent, and it's a whole thing, and they're baking, and it's all being filmed, and it's a reality show just like that. Now, there's a murder that happens during the season that is in this book. And so you spend a lot of time leading up to, who was murdered and why and all that stuff. And you're getting to know all the characters. Now, I listened to this on audio. It is a full cast. So it's a big cast of characters, because there's a lot of characters in this book, guys. To the point where I was losing track a little bit, especially in the beginning. I was having a hard time kind of like, okay, who is this? Where are we? Who is she? All that stuff. And then more towards like maybe a quarter to the halfway point, we only focus on a few characters. So it kind of takes a little bit of a shift that way. So then I kind of got to know them a little bit more. Okay. So my thoughts on this one, I gave this one 3 stars. And I think it's because I wanted more. I wanted it to be grittier. I don't know. I felt like, I guess I wanted it to be darker than it was. And I don't know if that was just unrealistic expectations for me, probably, because I had heard this reads a little bit more like a cozy, whereas it's just a solid mystery versus being dark and, twisty and turny and, shocking and all that stuff. But I like the twisty and the turny and the shocking, and that's what I was craving from this. So yeah, I definitely felt underwhelmed. I will say I did not see anything that happened coming. However, there was a storyline in here that did not involve the murder that I really did enjoy. And I almost kind of wish that the big murder didn't happen because I felt like it was almost a secondary to other things that were happening in here. The other stuff that was happening was more interesting to me. But when you market it like it's a murder mystery, then you should be focusing on the murder, right? So I don't know. I guess that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I was much more interested in the other storylines that were happening. And I mean, to the point where as I was listening to this, I kind of along the way forgot that there was a murder that they're trying to solve. Like, I forgot about it because I was so interested in the other stuff. So, and then the murder was thrown in. I was like, oh yeah, there's a murder. Oh yeah, someone died. Still don't know who. That's fine. So there's that. I don't know. I guess I just wanted more from it. And that just may be my own personal preferences as far as mysteries and thrillers go. I just like the darker stuff, I guess. And when I do read something that's a little bit lighter, I don't always enjoy it. It's got to have a bit more of an entertainment factor. Like Finlay Donovan is definitely a lighter mystery novel, but I loved it because it was funny and it definitely kept me entertained. This one didn't have that. It didn't have like the big entertainment value for me. So that was missing as well. So it was a 3-star. It was fine. I'm glad I read it. but it's just fine. So, yeah. All right, the next one that I read is Only If You're Lucky by Stacey Willingham. This was a book that I read. Actually, I started it on my Kindle, and then I ended up buying a finished copy at work because I love Stacey Willingham. I've read all of her works now, and she's just fantastic. So this one is also a most anticipated book for me too. So very happy about that. And we are following a girl who is in college, and seeing her in the very beginning of the book, she loses her best friend. Her best friend dies, and they were like planning to go to college together. It was their senior year of high school. And so she's grieving the loss of her friend. And you see her, go to college and kind of try to deal with it as best she can. She ends up falling in with a group of girls and becoming best friends with them and moving in with them and doing all that stuff. However, these girls are interesting, especially kind of the leader of the group, the stronger personality of the group, and has a lot of influence on them. There's some questionable things happening. And then one day she goes missing. So that's all I'm going to say. Definitely heavy on the friendship, definitely heavy on the mystery of what happened to her and where she is. It's going back and forth between timelines between present and past, even though past is just like a year or two. So it's not like a huge gap or anything, but you're kind of seeing some things leading up to when this girl disappeared. And a lot of stuff happens. It's a lot of drama. And the thing that I thought was really cool, especially when I finished this book and I read the acknowledgments, was that Stacey actually based one of the locations of this book, a big location of this book, on her actual experience in college, which was really cool. So, she was like kind of giving details about, what she drew inspiration from and what was actually I actually experienced this type of thing. So that was really cool to read about that. I really, really enjoyed this. I really enjoy her writing. I just think she paints a picture so well, and she will write these sentences that I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Just the way that she describes things puts things so vividly in my mind. I almost feel like I'm there, and it's fantastic that way. And this was no different. I will say this one felt a little bit slower than some of her other ones. There wasn't a whole lot of the real thrilling, oh my gosh, what's happening, blah, 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 blah. It's so fast I can't stop turning pages. But it was consistently interesting through the entire book. And I felt like her last book was a little bit like that too. And, I was never bored. I never wanted to put it down. I was always interested in what was going on. I wanted to know what happened to these girls and, what was leading all this stuff and, things that were happening and stuff. And there were twists and turns definitely that I didn't see coming, which was great. And I just really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. I did give it 4 stars because it wasn't kind of like that gut punch thriller type thing, but I really, really liked it a lot. And she's definitely just going to continue to be an auto-buy author for me, and I will read anything that she writes. Okay, then I picked up The Happy Ever playlist by Abby Jimenez. This checks a lot of boxes too. This is a winter TBR for 5-star from a bestie. This was the buzzword for January, February. This was the buzzword for February, which was a happy word, like a positive word. I feel like she said happy word, something with happy or joy or something like that. And obviously happy is in the title here. So works for that. And this is also an author I want to read to 0, and I'm working on it. So I adored this book. I listened to the audio of this. It was narrated by Zachary Weber and Aaron Mallon, who were both fantastic. Okay, so this is book number 2 in her Friend Zone trilogy. Now, they're companion novels. So this one follows one of the side characters from the Friend Zone. And do you have to read them in order? No. You could pick this up and read it right now if you want to, but you are going to see characters from the Friend Zone in here, and you're going to kind of know their end story. So there is that. So if you would rather not have that information ahead of time before reading the Friend Zone, I definitely recommend reading the Friend Zone first. So we're following a woman named Sloan. She is feeling very stuck in her life. She's grieving. She's in the process of grieving somebody that she lost, and she's having a hard time moving on from that. And she ends up finding a dog in a very interesting way. She finds a dog who's just running loose and is trying to contact the dog's owner. And it takes a while for her to get in contact with this guy. And so finally, when she does get in contact, she finds out that he had been out of town. Someone was supposed to be watching his dog, and he's very upset that that person was not following through. And they start a conversation because he's overseas doing something for work. And so she agrees to keep the dog for him. And so they start having this communication over the phone, basically. And, they start connecting that way. So it's all long distance. They don't even know what the other one looks like and all that fun stuff. So then he comes back from overseas and they meet, and turns out she knows exactly who he is. So that's interesting. It was really interesting how that all worked out. So that's all I'm going to say about it. But let me just say it was fantastic. I just love Abby's writing so much. She is just such an entertaining writer. And the banter between these two, like her humor is so on point with me. And I just loved it. I was like laughing. I was smiling. I got angry at one point. I slammed this book down on the counter at one point because I got angry. And then I walked back over and I apologized to it and I picked it back up and I kept going, but I got angry. So definitely some emotions were felt in this one. And I absolutely loved it. So Abby is a queen, and yeah, so 5 beautiful stars. The next one I'm not going to talk about in too much detail because I did just wrap it up in my 5-star predictions, but I did read All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This was totally 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Another author that I want to read to zero, and I think I only have one more. So I'm going to do that soon. Phenomenal. Loved it. All the details are in my last video. So go check that out if you want more details about this, if you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, 5 stars. And then I read the best book I've read so far this year. I don't know if things will. I still haven't read Sarah yet. I haven't read Sarah J. Maas yet. So I'm a little worried. I'm a little curious about which one will win out. But you guys, I read The Women by Kristin Hannah. I finished it last night, and I still don't think I have the words for how phenomenal this book was. I went on Goodreads to mark that I had finished it and give it a star rating, which is easily a 5. But I didn't have words, and I have no words. This book was phenomenal. That's all I wrote because I literally don't. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I started this book during our reading retreat Friday night, and I finished it Monday evening. So I read this almost 500-page book in 4 days, that's a lot for me. I did not want to put it down. This is another one that I listened to on audio, and Julia Whalen is the narrator, who is my favorite audiobook narrator of all time. And this proves why she was so good. Okay, how do I describe this book? So this was the most anticipated release for me because I love Kristin Hannah. She's another one I want to read to zero. However, I really only want to read her historical fictions. I don't want to get into the contemporaries or the romances that she has written. So she's like historical fiction, read to zero for me. Oh man, this one is... Okay, so we are following a woman who... Okay, gosh, I don't even know how to explain it. We're following a woman named Frankie. She is young, and she decides to enlist to go to Vietnam to be a nurse. So she gets her nursing degree. She's registered. She's ready to go. And then she decides to join the war effort because she knows that they need good nurses over there, and she's confident in her abilities that she can do well. So we're following Frankie go to war, guys. Like, this was written to a point where I felt like I was there. I felt like I was standing right next to Frankie, experiencing everything with her, all the horrors, all the bombings, all the gunshots. Like I could feel the sand, like, ooh, it was written so beautifully detailed. And I felt like every single detail mattered, and it painted the entire picture for me. And it just, I don't know. And the story just, okay. It's so hard for me to explain this because I don't want to give anything away, because there are some things in here that I was like, whoa. But this story is just, we start with her being young and joining the army and going in, and you're following her through her tour there. And then you follow her when she gets home. And a lot of it is at home and the aftermath of it, which was wow. And seeing her deal with things and seeing her try to deal with things, and not, this was at a point where, PTSD was not talked about or was looked down on. The amount of phrases that I read in this book that I just went, are you kidding me? Like, oh, it had such an impact. And that's all I want to say. I really don't want to say too much about it. Just know that you're going to get both Vietnam War, like in the middle of it, in the thick of it, and then also at home in the aftermath of it. Not only with her dealing with her own things, but dealing with society as well. And we kind of all know how society was responding to the Vietnam War. And you also follow her with her friendships that she made in the war. Fellow nurses that she bonded with became her people. And her family. Like, oh my gosh, you guys. I did not do a good job explaining this book, because I don't think I can. It was just, good Lord. Okay, that's it. Read it. Please read it. Please read this book. It was 5 stars, the best book I've read so far this year. We'll see if anything unseats it. I was not expecting it to be as good as this was, but it was. Okay, guys, those are the 5 books that I read in the month of February. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day.